Happy Friday.
Let me pull my chat box up. Who was the first one to tell us hey this time? Who was it? Was it Jalen? Jalen was the first
Jalen.
one. In all caps. What's up? What's up?
Ahoy there, ahoy, we
Can
are
we can we stop? It's Friday.
with no house.
Like
We have to keep up with the trends.
this is not a trend.
Yes,
It is a trend.
I don't know about this one.
Thank you.
Man.
Okay, someone said it is. Okay. She said it's a
See, Justin,
We're-
you're not on
we're
TikTok.
relevant.
so- Right.
man, TikTok is just too much for me. I just watch it.
Yeah, not for me.
If she's a tech person.
Not for me. That's where I draw the line.
Castaway. What is Castaway? Is this the name of the song?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's that? Backyardigans will never die. I disagree. I bet you money it will go away. Have any of y'all heard of the Wiggles and fruit salad?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I know y'all have. That's why the students. Put it away. It goes away. Anyway, what's up, everyone? We're gonna keep getting a little bit more time. People are still jumping in. And give a little bit more before we get started with today's sessions. Y'all can obviously tell we're back on Zoom webinar, so fortunately we can't see your face, can't unmute it. Someone said they grew up with the Wiggles. That's crazy. Well, that makes sense because my sister is about the same grade as y'all, so that should make sense. Cool. Also, if you are in here, whoever called us the J team on the very first day, big shout out to you because our office has started calling us that even. So you started a trend, and I guess it's branded and trademarked now. So whoever said J team from the get-go, forgot who it was. Shout out to you. Jasmine, someone said they love your braids. Timmy, I believe, said they love your braids. Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they're not talking to me. So the Wiggles went live at the White House. That is.
No way. That's so
I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Yeah, no one ever gives me hair compliments. It's all good. It's all good.
Sorry.
Fun fact though.
Not for everybody.
I had hair when I started here. Fun fact. All right, though. Let's go ahead and jump into it, everyone. To be respectful, of course, it's everyone's time. Welcome back, y'all. It's Friday. So this is our last day of this week before we jump into everything for the next following week. Yo, Gabba Gabba. I do remember that too. Anyway, thank y'all for doing this. For today's sessions, we have two phenomenal women coming to actually speak to you all. It's kind of incorporate a little bit of their story and kind of provide a little bit of empowerment as well. One thing that we do talking to students sometimes is that a lot of us don't see students or alumni who look like ourselves who went through the college process. So it seems a lot more unknown. So we try to use this time with some of our speakers to kind of show that as well and have you find someone you can make a connection with. And like, we have similar stories and things around there. Just to give you a heads up with it. So we got two phenomenal women coming to talk to us today. Really super excited about it. For the first one up we have today, we have Miss Jasmine Jarvis, aka her Zoom name is technically female right now. So Jasmine received 2 degrees here at NC State. She did both computer and electrical engineering, just means super smart, and minored in psychology. This woman had no free time, it seems like. But she received her degree back in 2012. After that, went to get her MBA at the University of Maryland at College Park. After her MBA graduation and receiving her degrees, she actually branched out and became a corporate recruiter for Apple. Apple, everyone, of course, easy loves them or hate them, but everyone knows Apple. You can see it within her logo within there. She's working with Apple, kind of working with recruitment and within diversity and recruiting business partners, and also have begun creating her own business venture called Technically Female, which you can see located in her email address. So let's give her some good vibes, give her all the good stuff. Someone already said they want to work for Apple. Let's welcome her in the chat box. And Jasmine, whenever you're ready, you can get started.
Awesome. Happy Friday. Everyone at Apple knows that's what I say. And even more happy Juneteenth. For you that don't know what that is, look it up. It's important to know your history because if we don't remember it, nobody will. Anywho, I am humbled. I am honored. It is a privilege to speak with you all today. Thanks for having me. I like to have fun, and it's Friday, so I definitely like to have fun. So we're going to make this a really good conversation. I also am a visual learner, so I do have some slides, but it just helps keep me on pace because otherwise I will go on a tangent and we'll be talking about things that aren't relevant, and it will be not useful for you. So let me share my screen really quickly. Oh, it says it's disabled. I don't know if I can share it actually.
Wait. Oh, wait, I
Yeah.
can fix it. Co-host.
Okay, cool. Well, as Justin's fixing it, like I said, I'm Jasmine Jarvis. Oh, cool. There we go. Only host. All right. Let me share this. Can everyone see my screen? Kind of, sort of, maybe. You guys should see the keynote, like the.
No,
can you see it or no?
we can see the full thing, so you're not in presentation mode.
Oh.
Yeah.
let
It's
me
like,
get
I guess
this
it's like,
together.
yeah, there we go. It's done. It's fixed.
Okay. Yes, I work for a tech company. Yes, I know tech, but it's Friday and we're off, so my brain's like here. Anywho, like Justin mentioned, I'm Jasmine Jarvis. I am originally from Raleigh, North Carolina. I did go to NC State, go Pack, and I currently live in Austin, Texas. For those of you that are like, what are you? You got a lot going on. I am African American and Native American, so really important to know where I come from and who I am. I'm going to walk you all a little bit through my journey, tell you about the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, and then give you kind of an opportunity to ask me questions. One thing you'll learn about me very quickly, I'm very open, I'm very real. There's no question that's off bar. I pretty much will answer anything. But just to kind of give you a little bit of a overview of who I am, like Justin mentioned, I went to NC State. I did get 2 engineering degrees. Yes, I did have fun in college, even though Justin doesn't think that I did. I worked harder, but played even harder. I did get an MBA from the University of Maryland. I do currently work at Apple, and I do currently own my own podcast. It has kind of been a little quiet this year just because I've been really busy. But really the premise of the podcast is to empower women in STEM. I felt that a lot of times there's not a lot of women that get visibility to STEM at an early age. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about. And so I have different women from all over the world on my podcast, and we talk about everything STEM related, everything about being a woman in tech or in science or in math. So that's kind of who I am as a person. I'm going to shut this down for a second. All right, awesome. So I can't see you all, and I want to see you all. See, it's kind of freezing. There it goes. So one thing about me is what you all are doing today is a huge stepping stone into your destiny. So I applaud all of you for being here on a Friday, really taking this opportunity to learn more about what your career could look like and really progressing yourself. So I want to clap for all of you guys because you shouldn't take this opportunity lightly. And you are the future leaders of America. And so it's really important that you believe that in yourself and you don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. So my story begins in high school. I always loved math and science. I was really good at math, and I decided that I wanted to go to a specific high school that focused on STEM. And I went to Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School for those that are Raleigh natives and know about all the great high schools in Raleigh. But I actually didn't live near the high school, so I had to apply. And I did get in. And for me, it was a little bit of a difference compared to my elementary and middle school from what I was used to. So in elementary and middle school, transparently, I was around a lot of people that were Caucasian versus in Southeast Raleigh, it was a lot of everything. We had students that were Caucasian, that were Black, that were Hispanic, that were from Asia, like all over. And so for me, it was overwhelmingly a lot. And I was like, oh man, like there's so much to this world. And when I was in school, I really took it upon myself to really focus on engineering. I knew that I wanted to be an engineer in middle school. Yes, again, I'm an overachiever, but I had one of those projects in middle school that was like, pick a job, interview someone, and get to know what that means. And I happened to pick a software engineer at SAS. And what he told me about being an engineer, solving problems, programming, sounded really cool to me. And so I decided, all right, I want to do engineering. And so at that time, Project Lead the Way was a new organization within the high school system, and I was able to take some engineering classes prior to even getting into college. And for me, I got exposure to web design, I got exposure to hardware and circuits, and it really allowed me to get some interest into that space on top of some things I was doing outside of high school, like summer camps every year. One thing you'll learn through my story is my parents are very interested and engaged in my development. They pushed me a lot. They made me do things I didn't want to do. I just wanted to be a kid. But it all was very important, a part of my journey. Now, also, I said I'd talk about the bad and not just the good stuff. But in high school, I had really great grades. I ended up taking calculus in high school, and I got my first C ever in life. And I almost let that kind of talk me out of pursuing math or science or engineering in college, because like, man, I can't even get a good grade in this class in calculus. And I knew that calculus was important to know for my next stages. And it was very hard for me. It didn't come easy. And I was pretty frustrated, honestly, with getting that grade. But I also knew that I was going to continue learning. I knew I could retake it in college. And I did so and ended up getting an A. So that was great. But for me, it was just about not letting one setback determine kind of my progression of what I was going to do for my life. And actually, I knew I was going to college. I didn't know where. I also thought that there was a magic fund for college. My dad and I had a really interesting conversation, probably my junior year. And I said, how much money have you all saved up for me for college? Like, I want to go to California. I want to go all over the place. And he politely, as he always does, let me know that there was no magic college fund. I said, oh, great. He said, whatever you don't get in scholarship money, you will have to pay on your own. And one thing about me is I wouldn't say cheap. I just like to have my money and spend it the way that I want to spend it. And paying for school was not on my priority list of where I wanted my money to go. So I decided that I was going to apply to as many scholarships as possible. So while some of my friends were in the lunchroom, I was in my career center applying to scholarships for, Daughters of the American Revolution, like things I didn't even know what they were. I'm going to write an essay and I'm going to, apply to everything possible. So one thing as you're thinking about scholarships is, and to know about loans is like interest accrual is real. If you don't know what interest accrual is, make sure you look that up. So basically, if you do get a loan, there's a percentage that it'll continue to improve. So your loan may be $10,000, but after 20 years, you're going to be paying more than that. And for me, that wasn't an option because I knew that Uncle Sam, which is our federal friend that collects money, doesn't play, and I wanted free money. And so I went through several different processes for scholarships. I even, once I decided that I was going to stay in state because it was cheaper, and I was interested in NC State, I got to the Park Scholarship Finalist round, which was the full ride. I didn't get it, but by being able to do that, being able to apply to 101 scholarships, I was able to get a full ride. So I always encourage students, the money's out there. Make sure you're being knowledgeable of what that is. Utilize your resources in your high school career services because they know where all the free money is. You shouldn't have to pay for anything. And by that too, you also will get money each semester as well. So I definitely encourage you all to find those, and we can talk a little bit more about that in the Q&A too. There's some questions there. But yeah, so I got a full ride. I had actually interned at NC State as a senior in high school. I sent a random email to someone at NC State in their electrical and computer engineering department, said, hey, I'm Jasmine, like I'd love to intern for you all. I don't know if you have a program, but I have this class. And they awarded me the opportunity to do research as a high school senior in their electrical and computer engineering lab, which is really cool. And that really kind of pushed me to go to NC State. I got in, I already had exposure to the department. And for me, my why of NC State was I knew and saw the diversity in the school. I really wanted to make sure that I was around other people that not just looked like me, but looked like other types of people I hadn't been exposed to, because I knew that that's what the world was. And I wanted to make sure that I was engaging in that early on to understand different types of people. And honestly, NC State felt like home for me. My dad went to NC State. I grew up going to football games at NC State, and it just felt like home. And of course, it was a top engineering program and still is. So I went to NC State, and this is the bad part. My first year at NC State, I was so super excited. I was like, I'm in this minority engineering program. I'm in WISE, which is Women in Science and Engineering. So making sure that I'm connected with people that are in my major that may look like me or, may be in some of my classes. And my first year, I did really well in my calculus classes, physics, not so much, but I got through that. And chemistry, same thing. But I remember going to talk to my advisor and I said, hey, I really, want to put my best foot forward. These are the classes I'm thinking about taking. And she promptly told me, maybe engineering's not for you. Maybe you should pursue math or science. And think about me after I just kind of told you all the journey to get to NC State was I applied and I was like, oh, super excited. And here I was having a conversation where I was hoping to get a little bit more advice about pursuing it. And I was being told, maybe you should just do math and science. So, one thing you'll learn too is you may not have an adversary or someone supporting you in one bucket, but then you have support on the other bucket. So I promptly went to our minority engineering program leader and really just had a conversation with her on hey, this is what I really want to do. I know it's going to be hard. I feel like I need someone in my corner to kind of set me straight because I'm not really sure I made the right decision. And her name is Miss Angie. So if you ever get to engage with her, she's amazing. And she talked me off the ledge. And she let me know that, I was there for a reason and I should continue to pursue it and, to utilize my resources and what resources were available to me, as well as my WISE leader, as well as Kathy. And so really that was kind of an introduction to me of what my journey was going to look like. It was going to be hard. It was going to be people that told me I shouldn't be here. I even had students in my class say to me you're a female, why are you in an engineering lab? You shouldn't be here. And for me, became very clear at the beginning that I had to silence the noise. And when I say silence the noise, I mean really be laser focused on what I wanted and what I knew in my heart I wanted to do and completely ignore anything that anyone else had to tell me. Now with that, engineering's hard. I'm not going to lie. It was super hard. Studied late nights all the time, had study groups, prayed sometimes for C's. I'm not going to lie to you. I was just get me out of this class. But it really taught me work ethic. It taught me how to work with people, how to solve problems, how to push myself. It also gave me the opportunity to get some internships in college. So I interned every year, even my freshman year when someone else told me I couldn't be an intern as a freshman. It was never going to happen. And I interned at SAS. I went to the career fair. I didn't listen to a TA that told me not to do it. And, I really got some good opportunities in college to kind of get exposed to the tech industry with SAS and with Cisco as well. But halfway through, I kind of realized, all right, I could be a software engineer. I could be a programmer. I can flow, but I like people. And at that time, which was a long time ago, software engineers didn't work with people. They were kind of in a cubby, in their own little world. They may not talk to anybody. And that was not what I wanted to do. But as I mentioned, I was on a full scholarship. I couldn't just switch my major. I couldn't just, find something else. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stick through it. I'm determined to get this computer engineering degree. And so I did, and really started to lean into what interests me. So I knew I like to help people. I knew I like to solve problems. I knew I loved technology and math, and I knew I liked working on a team. And so, like I mentioned before, those resources that I had from Minority Engineering Program, Women in Science and Engineering, our Career Services Center, even some of the student organizations that I became a part of, Society of Women Engineers, and really just leaning into different networks or different people that could help pour into me to figure out what I was going to do post-college, because honestly, I had no clue what I was going to do. So, talking through how did I find my career path? Well, prayer, trusting the process, always thinking, what challenges me, How can I lean into the things I liked, helping people, solving problems, learning in tech, and then also being open to being uncomfortable. And I had planned to take a job. Well, I had accepted a job, not planned. I'd accepted a job post-school to stay in Raleigh, to work at Cisco. I'd interned there. I knew my manager. It was going to be great. But I had ended up getting another opportunity to move to Washington, D.C. and be a consultant. Now, I just told you, I was an engineer. I know nothing about consulting. I know nothing about Washington, D.C. All of my family's in Raleigh. And I was like, okay, I can be comfortable in Raleigh with my family, with the manager I already know, and with the company that I'm comfortable with, or I can move away from everything and everybody that I know. Now, most sane people would have picked the side of like, I know this side, but me, I picked, I'm just going to go for the challenge and take a leap of faith. And so I moved to DC, uprooted my life, knew no one, became a consultant, had no clue what that meant, but really it was helping people solve their problems. It was technology. It was working with people from all over the world. So I worked for IBM. I did consulting for about 5 years, everything from healthcare to education to federal government. I traveled to different countries. I did supply chain as well. That was actually one of my favorite projects. It was around buying drugs for underdeveloped countries like Latin America, Asia, and Africa for HIV, AIDS, malaria, reproductive health, and Zika at the time, and really working with how do we get those life-saving drugs to save people every single day. So that was a lot of fun. But with that also came a little bit of difficulty as well. I was traveling all the time. I was doing well, but as I mentioned kind of at the beginning, there were very few and far between females, let alone Black females or females of color that were on my teams. And so I was the only one. And if you haven't realized it by now, I'm a firecracker. I'm pretty outspoken, and some people weren't ready for that. But I, made it pretty clear in the beginning of my career that no matter what, my family's number one. And whatever they need, I'm there. Number two, I'm not going to dim my light for other people. I just wasn't. I wasn't willing to settle, and I wasn't going to not bring my full self to work. And, thankfully, it worked okay for me. So I did consulting. I ended up deciding that, I was doing well. I liked consulting. I did this entry-level leadership program, and I did it for 5 years. And I decided, I'm missing something. Like, I'm really good at this, but there's a part of me in my heart that I'm still not meeting the needs with what I'm doing. And so I decided, I knew I was going to do this, but I didn't know when. I decided while I was working as a consultant full-time, I was also going to go back to school at night and get my MBA. Again, a little crazy. I had no time in the world, but I made it happen. And so I got my MBA. I went to the University of Maryland. And that's where I figured out how I was going to pivot. And I took this assessment, and it said, you're good at coaching and developing. I said, so I should be a teacher. Like, I did all this school and did all this stuff to be a teacher. And I was like, that's fine. But that was more of my retirement plan, not my now plan. And my advisor said, no, that doesn't mean you have to be a teacher. He said, it could mean you're developing people through management, or you're guiding people through their next path. And so it was like a light bulb went off and said, I think I want to be in recruiting, because recruiting is coaching, developing, getting people to their career paths and seeing them be successful and changing their lives. So I made a pivot. Some people said it was career suicide. I said, silence the noise. And I went for it. And I led all of our recruiting efforts for our technical consultants, for college students that were coming in, for our interns, for IBM for about a year. And it was awesome. And I led a diversity efforts. We didn't have a strategy. We didn't have a plan. It was something really important to me. And I drove it and I did it. And, quite frankly, enjoyed it way more than consulting. And so I did that and decided, okay, getting a little comfortable at IBM. Is this where I really want to be? And again, full disclosure, at the time, the organization's belief in what diversity and inclusion was versus what I believed in my heart it to be were not aligned. And so I made the decision to leave. So again, I leave, I move to Texas. Again, I know no one. I've been there once in my entire life, and I got the opportunity to work for Apple. Again, didn't know anyone at Apple, applied on the website, jokingly almost that, they'll never like review my resume, I'll never get picked. Like, I'm just a girl from Raleigh, and I ended up, getting the opportunity to be a recruiter at Apple, and it was totally the best decision I've ever made in my life. So I did that for about a year, and then decided that I wanted to up my ante even more because, again, as you hear, I'm an overachiever, and I decided to be in diversity recruiting. And it was a new team, and really what that is one, I ensure how we recruit, where we recruit, what we recruit, ensures that we are getting as much underrepresented talent into our recruitment funnel or getting them in our process to be considered for opportunities or jobs at Apple. And then two, ensuring the way that we evaluate people that are interested at Apple, that we're fair, that we're inclusive, and we're unbiased. Now, those two things sound very simple. As you can imagine, in this world, they're not. So it requires a lot of influence. It requires a lot of outspokenness, a lot of education, a lot of just long nights and just really finding candidates and getting them connected. And honestly, like, it's the most rewarding thing ever. For me, I see myself in other candidates. I see myself in college as, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what other opportunities I could do besides being a programmer. And I want to help guide people to figure out where they can fall in. And so it's a lot of work, again, not going to lie, but that's what I do currently. And so there's 4 nuggets that I really have learned through this entire process. The first one is around sacrifice and dedication. Fortunately, unfortunately, depending what way you lay, achievement never stops. So you have to continue to keep pushing through every obstacle that comes your way through every season. In college, in high school, in grad school, in your career, there's always going to be obstacles, but it's really how you react to those obstacles that will really determine kind of where you end up on the other side. So it's really important that you get good grades, stay in the straight and narrow. Trust me, like, you'll thank yourself later. And because the sacrifices you make today will allow you to reap the benefits of tomorrow. So don't look at it as like, oh, like, I really don't want to study for that test. Think of it as like, I don't want to study for this test. I know I have to, because if I study and I do well, then when I get to the other side, I can be able to do things that I really want to do. The second thing that was big for me was continual learning. I always encourage people to ask questions. There's no stupid questions. You always should ask questions, seek clarity, and always be willing to learn new things. Sometimes you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you can be the person that really shows that eagerness, and that's really important. So even earlier on in my career, it was important for me to be a sponge and to learn as much as I can. And I learned quickly that those that had been there for 20 plus years, and I had just been there, I had started to learn more than they did, and they were coming to me, and I was like, wait, shouldn't I be coming to you? You've been here for 20 years. I've only been here for a year. So it's very important to learn as much as you can and to be that resource for people, because you never know how that will impact your journey. Also, about learning, the world changes so quickly. Technology, what's important. I remember early in my career, I was encouraged to be an expert in one area, and me being me, I was like, no, I want to know a lot of different things. Which worked out for me, because if I was an expert in, I don't know, a technology that doesn't exist anymore, I wouldn't be able to be in the position I'm in now. So, in the real world, like, it is no longer acceptable to just be an expert in one area when you're working or and you're interning or even on a job. While in high school, like, your employer will expect you to be a quick learner, be exposed to multiple areas. So learn as much as you can. And no knowledge is bad knowledge to have. So you never know what you learn may impact your life. Like, I got a psychology minor, honestly and truthfully, because I needed a break from engineering and to boost my GPA. Again, full transparency. But that was something on my resume that got the most questions. Like, oh my gosh, you got a psychology minor? That's so awesome. And I was like, I just did it so I could get out of classes and get my GPA up. But I learned how to deal with people. And I have a different type of mindset when it comes to people. So you just never know. So consistently learn. The third big nugget is networking. You are always making new relationships. So never take any relationship that you make, even if it's on vacation, in the elevator, they're all important. You never know who you're meeting, so don't ever take it for granted. Rub shoulders and help others also along the way. Make sure that you're giving as much as you're receiving. You don't want to be the person that's always asking and never giving other people. You also want to put yourself in situations that push you to get out of your comfort zone. Fun fact, I'm actually an introvert. I thought I was an extrovert, but I'm an introverted extrovert. But I learned that if I don't push myself, I'm going to, not try to meet people. I'm going to stay in my bubble. I'm happy in my bubble, like I'm good. But I get so much more opportunity when I'm meeting other people and when I'm networking. And when you do build your networks and when you do meet people, make sure you stay connected with them. It's your responsibility just as much as it's theirs. And always be willing, like I said, to pour into them. You don't want to be the partner or the person in the relationship that's a leech. Like, you don't want to be that person. You want to be that person that's always there for them so that when you need that support, they're there for you as well. And just a caveat to say there, like, I have a core, meaning like I have a core group of friends from college, friends from high school, and like my family, and they get me through my toughest times. It'll be, a day where I'm having a really rough day. I may not have said anything to anyone, but they just know. And they'll text me and say, hey, Jazz, how are you doing? Or I haven't heard from you in a while. You're live, like, what's going on? Because sometimes I can get really into my work or really into what I'm doing. So it's important to make sure you surround yourself with people that are for you, people that are like-minded, and people that'll push you as well. Even though you may not want to be pushed, it's really good to have those people in your corner. The last nugget is leadership. It's always important to lead by example and to not just follow others. Leaders will speak up even when others tell them to be quiet, which is usually me. I usually am not quiet. I usually just say it like it is. And leaders are okay with being different. So it's okay to be different. It's okay to be the only one. It's okay to have a perspective that others may not have in the room. That's why you're hired. And if you don't speak up and provide that, it's going to limit what's available. And also, leaders work hard and they also play hard. So like I said, I work hard, I play hard, I do it all. So it's really important to start building some of that leadership capacity, even if it's in a club you're in, like starting to take leadership roles or being able to volunteer to help with an event or something that you're doing. It's really important that you're gaining those skills early and learning what those look like, so that if you do want to be a leader in the future, you've kind of gotten some exposure early on to understand what that is. Now, what did I learn? I gave you a lot of different things. The biggest things for me were, through my journey so far, is take chances. Like I mentioned, I took multiple chances. Life just happens, and you got to be ready for it. And I always say life happens in seasons. So, it's no longer a thing of like, all right, I'm going to be this when I grow up. I am 31 and I still don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, but I know what's good for me in the season. In the season, it's recruiting, it's diversity and inclusion. That's what I'm doing now. Is that going to be what I do in 10 years? Maybe, maybe not. But give yourself that opportunity to be able to move and do different things in the season based on, one, what interests you, but then two, where your passion lies. Like, experiences that you have will help you learn who you are and determine where your passion lies. And you want to pursue your passion like your life depends on it. You never want to be veered off from what your passion is, no matter if you feel like you're not going to make the money that you need, no matter if you feel like someone is telling you not to do it. Like, always stick in the lane of what your passion is. Also, don't be afraid to fail. Like I mentioned before, I've had many of failures. It's going to happen. It's about how you recuperate from the failures, not necessarily that you failed, because it's going to happen. So just brace yourself for that impact. And then also, like, especially in tech, soft skills will take you a long way. Make sure you're always yourself. Your brand is only what you make of it. And so those first impressions are so important. Even if you don't have the answer, be the person in the room that's respectful. Be the person in the room that's wanting to help. Be the person in the room that wants to do the things that no one else wants to do. You never know who's watching, because people are always watching, and you never know what people remember and how they can help you to where you are trying to be. What I leave you with is a quote that I saw that I really, really liked a lot. And it says, the greatest achievement of the human spirit is to live up to one's opportunities and make the most of one's resources. Now, this group, from what I'm gathering, is a great resource for you. Going to NC State or any university you decide to go to is going to be a great resource for you. You got to use your resources, and you have to open your mouth, because if you don't open your mouth and you don't use your resources, it's going to be really hard for you. And you got to work with people, because that's not going away, unfortunately. But yeah, that's kind of my journey. I'm going to stop talking because that was a lot, and opening for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Jasmine. I don't know if you're looking at the chat at all while you were speaking, but they're very inspired by your story. So we definitely appreciate you sharing your experiences with us. And we do have some questions coming in, so I'm going to read those out loud for you. So first, we have some questions about scholarships.
Okay.
Did you apply during your senior year or the summer before your senior year? And also, what are some good like websites or sources where they can find scholarships that are like reliable?
Very good question. One of my favorite things to talk about. So scholarships, start looking junior year. And I'm not saying that technically you can apply, but you can know what's coming up next year and when those dates may be. I used FastWeb a lot, which is a resource that was really good for me. I have heard that Scholarly is also another good resource, but my best resource for me was my career services center in high school. The reason why I say that is because me and my guidance counselor were like this, like if she sometimes knew about scholarships that weren't on the website or I didn't know about, and we would meet almost every week about what was coming up. And also sometimes, well, a lot of times, scholarships will require you to provide your resume and a transcript. And as some of you may know, transcripts cost money. And we got to a point where I was getting free transcripts because she's just like, I'm not going to charge you $2 every time you want a transcript, because I was just applying to a lot. And so really having that relationship with her really helped me, one, save money, but two, helped me be aware of what scholarships were available. Most universities or schools do have a scholarship or scholarships that exist. So if there's certain schools you're looking at, make sure you're going on their website to see what they have available. But also there's a lot of organizations that, think about too, where your parents work. Like my dad at the time worked at Wachovia and they had a scholarship, so I applied to that. Again, I applied to Daughters of American Revolution. I just really utilized my guidance counselor. I utilized the internet in searching for what scholarships existed, and then also leveraging my network. Like, who did I know that was in a community organization or something, and figuring out what those scholarships are. But I'm telling you, your guidance counselor is your best friend. Like, even if you may not get along with your guidance counselor, find someone in that office that you can get along with. You don't necessarily have to only work with your assigned one. You can go with another one, and that's what they're there for. They're there to help. Good question.
Yeah. So the next question is, did your internships in college help you build more networking connections in school?
Oh, yes. It's interesting because some of the people that I interned with were still cool today. Like, we may not talk every day, but if I see them, like, we're still having conversations. I actually just talked to someone yesterday from an internship I had in college. She's like, hey, like, I just want to connect. And I was like, yeah, it's really important. One, for meeting people your age too, that are on the same path as you, right? That goes back to your like-minded core, like having people that are on the same path as you that you can partner with to get to wherever you're trying to be. But then two, being able to meet people within a company, leaders, managers. You never know like what opportunity may come up from a full-time standpoint or just further along in your career. And getting to know people. They may, switch companies, but remember you as an intern, like, man, that intern was so great. Like, I want to reach out, I want to connect. So shameless plug, if you don't, think about creating a LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is amazing. You definitely should have that when you go to college, because that's like a free access to people that you may not know or may not have. And you can get connected to people in companies. So yeah, I think I networked a lot. I think as an intern, I didn't realize I was networking. It wasn't like, oh, let me network tomorrow. Like, it wasn't a thought in my mind, like, I got to do it this way, but it was more of just like being open, getting to know people, being willing to reach out to people, asking for help too. And those kind of relationships just kind of came organically.
Great. And there's another question about networking. So what are some ways that they can start networking now as students that are rising juniors and seniors?
Yeah, really good question. Well, I can't really talk about social media. I think Jess and I were talking about it earlier. I guess you can network on social media. I don't really have, I mean, it's a whole new era for you all than me. Like our social media was like MySpace, Facebook, so it's a little different. But you could network on social media. You can also network with people in student organizations that you're a part of, really getting to know people. I'm really finding people, again, that are like-minded that may be also looking for scholarships. Like I had a friend that was also looking for scholarships, and if I saw one that would be good for her, we shared that information, and it wasn't a competition, right? It was like we want us both to get full rides. I mentioned LinkedIn. That's another good way to network. Also, just things you're involved in. If you're involved in church, if you're involved in volunteer work in your community, if you're involved in, I mean, sporting, like I played sports, so I played soccer, so I got networks through that in high school and just meeting people. So I think it's just about what you're comfortable in and what you want to do to meet people. And like I said, there's probably some online stuff. I don't really know about that stuff, so I can't really help you there, but I'm sure it exists.
Awesome, thank you. So the next question is, did you find that NC State was welcoming to women of color?
Ooh, there's the good ones. So I would say, minus that incident I told you about my advisor, and minus the silly guy that told me I shouldn't be in the lab who didn't even graduate, but I digress. Yes, it was. Actually, most of my student groups or study groups were white males. And they're like, all right, like I was the organizer, they're like, all right, we're going to study together. And even when there were classes where I just was like, I have no clue what's going on, they're like, all right, we'll help you. So from that standpoint, yes. From a resources standpoint, I mentioned kind of some of the programs I was in. They kept me in my degree, I'll be honest. I would come to Miss Angie all the time, like about to be in tears, like, I'm just gonna quit. She's like, no, you're not. And so it's really about finding those people on campus that speak your language and that can really level with you and can really understand where you're coming from. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say like everyone was pleasant, because that's just not the world we live in. But I had met a lot of really great people who I'm still in connection with, who supported me and who wanted the best for me and who helped veer me off of that path of like, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I know that program, the Women in Engineering, well, WISE, and then MEP have now become one. So they're getting bigger and bigger, which is good. And it shows that there's a focus there and they really want you to be there. But I never felt like no one wanted me to be there or anyone could talk me out of it. I think there were just a couple of instances. And I shared that because you need to know that everyone's not for you. They're just not. And you need to be able to kind of posture up a little bit and stick true to yourself.
Awesome. And I'm going to tie these next two questions together. They're kind of related, but would you say that your failures in the past have been able to kind of get you to where you are today? And how are you able to like move past those setbacks in the past?
Yeah, good question. I think failing is never easy, but it does get easier, if that makes sense. So like when you said that, I thought about the failures I had with the C in that class, and with, just really struggling in my engineering programs. And then I think about the jobs that I thought I wanted that I didn't get. And even grad school, a school I thought I wanted to go to, didn't get. Now, what I learned from those failures was that wasn't what my story was supposed to be, right? Like the school that I wanted to go to for MBA school wouldn't have been what I wanted. It was very stiff. It was very stale. The community was very just like competitive. And like, I wanted to go to a school that was like community building. And I have some of the best like friends from that. And so I think what you have to process as a failure is it sucks and it's going to sting and you grieve through that. But it's also, there's a reason that failed, right? Like there's a reason why that didn't work out, because there's greater on the other side. And it's hard to deal with that in the moment. But as you think about it later down the line, you're like, man, I'm so glad I didn't get that job in Boston. Like I would have hated Boston. Oh man, like so glad that didn't happen. Right. And you just have to be more willing to fail. And then there's a second part to that question. I think I missed it. The last part of that question. Or no, did I get it?
I forgot. Like, I think it was
dang it.
like, how did you move past those setbacks?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I cried. Like I cried, depending what it was. I don't cry over everything, but certain things, like I cried about it. I ate my ice cream. I processed it. So that's another thing. Like you process your failures. You think about why did you fail? You think about what does that mean for you? And then you move on. Like, what are your next steps? If something doesn't work out, then like, all right, so what's my plan now? But you got to give yourself that space and that time to process and to react emotionally, however that is. You may be angry, like, but do that in a healthy way and then figure out what's next and what you want to do. Because you don't want to wallow in it. Like if you wallow in it, then you're going to be stuck, and you don't want to do that.
Awesome, thank you. So the next question is, how has your minor in psychology aided you in your career?
Ooh, really good one. I know people so well. My EI, my emotional intelligence is like this. Like it's kind of weird because I know when someone's off, and I'm always that person that checks in and like, how do you know? It's like, I just know. I would say I have a unique skill set, especially when it comes to career and corporate, where I can connect with anyone. There may be two teams, and this has happened quite a few times, where they don't get along. Like there's history, they don't want to talk to each other, but they need to work together to get a solution. And so I have constantly been that person in the middle that, you know, may not know anybody on either of those groups, but weaves my way into knowing who they are and brings them together so that we can work together. And I think understanding how people think, understanding like you need to know what motivates people, like that is very helpful. I learned that in psychology, and understanding like people have past and you got to accept people and meet them where they are. That has helped me. And so I'm very sensitive to other people's needs, to what motivate other people, and really also encouraging people to be more sensitive. And that has helped me tremendously with just being successful in my career, but then also meeting people and getting people to advocate for me when I'm not in the room. And I want to say something about that. So mentorship and sponsorship are two different things. So a mentor is someone that like, you know, you can ask questions, they can guide you through your career, they can give you feedback, unsolicited, solicited, whatever, but have your best interest at heart, right? A sponsor or sponsorship is someone that you may engage with or you may work with that wants the best for you, but is at a level or at a position where they can talk about you when you're not in the room and advocate for you in a way that could help you get to another, whatever you're trying to get to, or maybe you don't even know. So it's always important to have both, because you want to be that person where someone is advocating on your behalf when you're not in the room, because that's when new things happen for you. So I wanted to call that out because it's really important to know, and it's important to have both throughout your entire, like even college and once you get out of college.
Awesome, thank you. So the next question, it says, you mentioned earlier in your presentation that you do not let anyone take your light away from you. Was there ever a time where you felt someone tried to take credit away for something that you did or outshine you, and how did you tackle that?
Yes, all the time. In corporate, we like to call it mansplaining. Mansplaining, sorry, Justin, you don't do that, but I'm just going to give this as an example, is when you say something in a meeting, it's accurate, and then, but no one listens. And then a man says something in a meeting and everyone's like, oh, that's such a great idea. Even though you just said the same thing as a female, it happens. And that's happened to me where I'm like, okay, I know I just said that. And sometimes it's not, it's an awkward situation. So, and that dims my light, because it's like, I know that I just said that. I know that I'm intelligent. I know that I know what I'm talking about, but how do I navigate through that? And for me, I may just reiterate it again and say, yeah, like I was saying, this, and this. And then also too, I always am really big about not having other people speak on my behalf. And what you'll find is sometimes people may try to take credit for what you're doing, but like being very intentional with over communicating things. So sometimes I may over communicate something so that it's very clear that it came from me. But I think too, like, you just got to understand the environment and understand the space. And sometimes it's not even worth the energy. Sometimes it's just like, well, like, whatever, like, if you're going to use all that energy, I'm gonna use energy over here. And so you got to know what it is. Now, if we're talking like, it's going to determine like your next career, speak up, like, say something and take credit for your work. But if it's like, so-and-so said this, it has nothing to do with like what's going to help me, then it's not even worth your energy. So it's a balance, right? It's like, sometimes you have to like speak up, and then sometimes it's just like, it's not even worth the energy.
Awesome, thank you. So next question is, what was it like getting into your field as a woman of color?
I think for me, because my undergraduate career was so very clear of what my career was going to look like in regards to, I have a picture of when I graduated. It's myself and 4 other women that graduated in my department. Yeah, there's 5 of us. So I knew what I was getting myself into, which I think helped me prepare for what it would look like in corporate. So I really wasn't culture shocked at all. Like, I knew what I was getting myself into. And so I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. And then also too, in my math and science classes, there wasn't a lot of people of color, but it did inspire me to, like I said before, bring someone along with me, right? So it really inspired me to be involved in things that could encourage other women of color that may be in college or high school, and help bring them along the way and kind of help guide them through it. I was a mentor in college, I think 3 years, and really helping push people. So I think by being exposed to that in like college and in my career, like, and even in my company, like, new people that would come, like, I had heightened sensitivity of like, I don't want you to leave. Like, what can I do to help your journey? How can we partner together? How do we keep you here? So I think I took it as an assignment versus a negative. It was more of like, we need more of us. So what can I do to make sure that that happens? And clearly I'm still doing that because that's my career now.
Yeah.
I get paid to do.
Great. So the next question is, how did you deal with parents that are a bit overbearing with the college application process?
Ooh, hopefully they're not listening. No, I'm just kidding. I took it in stride. There were some disagreements and a couple of spats about it, but also had to keep in mind they have my best interests at heart. I think I just found out probably like 2 years ago that my parents were plotting on me this whole time, like seriously plotting of like in middle school. They're like, all right, she's good at math. Let's keep putting her in stuff that helps her like with her math. And then, okay, she may be interested in this college. What does she need to get in her SAT and like GPA? So like, we need to make sure and I'm just like, that's a little, again, overbearing, but it worked out. So I think you have to always assume positive intent and assume that they want better for you. Like, they really do want, like, really good parents always want better for you. And you won't really understand it in college because I was so frustrated with them. And then in high school was so frustrated. But as you get older and you get exposed to other people that may not have had that as an option, you will be so thankful. So I think you just have to take a deep breath, know that it's in your best interest, and, you know, they're paying the bills too. So you kind of just have to do what they say. I don't know.
True. Awesome. So we have maybe just 2 more questions. So
Sure.
How do you spend your money wisely when it came to tuition, books, housing, etc.?
Yes. So this is another parent overbearing story. So I wanted to live off campus. I was like, I'm free. I'm gonna live in an apartment. Like, I got full ride. Like, I got money to spend. And I actually never saw any of my refunds for college. Like, didn't even know they happened. Background: my whole family's finance, like their money saving. I've been knowing about saving since I was a toddler. So I like didn't see any of that money. So for me, about budgeting, it's like, what's important and what do you need? So like, again, scholarship money can pay for housing. It paid for my books. It paid for tuition. So I really didn't have to pay I didn't pay for anything out of pocket. Even my laptop, I got paid for, which is great. And I got an iPod. They don't have those anymore, but at the time, iPods were cool, whatever. iPod Touch. So it's about knowing where you want to put your money and what's important, what you actually really need. Because when you get to college, you're like, oh, I got this refund check and I can just go ball out and, then eat beanies and winnies for the next month. And if that's what you want to do, it's your life. Like, you can do that. Me, I like to eat good things. So no, it wasn't going to work out. So I think too, it's a balance. I definitely encourage you, if you are going to get allocated money or you are paying for school, have a budget, have an Excel spreadsheet. If you don't know how to do that, YouTube has videos. Like, I highly advise you to have a budget and see how much things cost. And so you know where your money's being allocated. I've had a budget since I graduated from college. I still do. Every time I get paid, I move my money. I don't like auto draft because I want to move my own money, and I like have it itemized. So I think it's important to know and learn those skills early. It'll help you in the future so that you know kind of what you're spending. So if you have budget questions, I can help. I'm good at that stuff. Like, you just got to do it that way.
Yeah. Great. So last question, a lot of students are asking for your contact information if they want to connect with you later. So do you mind sharing your email with us? You could just put it in the chat and that would be great.
Yes, sure. Feel free to send me an email. I still use my NC State email because it's Gmail and I don't want a new email address. So I put that in there. If you are smart and have a LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. You can always connect with me there. Again, I don't really do social media, so I'm not sharing that. Like, I'm never really on it. So, yeah, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for your time and for just being here and sharing your experiences with all of us. Students, if you could please thank Jasmine for her time and for just sharing with us. So at this time, we are going to wrap up this first session for today, and we'll go into our break. So we do have a 15-minute break. We'll be back at 2:15 for our second session. And I hope you see all those thank yous coming in the chat for you. So yeah, we'll see you all in a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
We'll drop your chat. Someone asked in the content again. We'll drop your email and your podcast in the chat box.
Perfect. Thank you.
Also, I would say thank you for doing this once again. It's super cool too to see you do this. When they first gave us your name to potentially do it, I was like, yo, she sounds super familiar. I think I remember her. And I saw you graduate in 2012. I was like, oh yeah, I remember her. So it's super cool seeing you come back and like see a full circle for me even. So that's super cool. Appreciate you for doing it.
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's weird to talk about yourself. I'll be honest. I'm like, I don't have all the answers. Like, I don't. You just flow.
It's the best part. It's the best part. They appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much for doing it for us.
Yeah, no problem. You guys good? Do you need me for anything else?
You're good.
You're good. Thank you
This
so
is
much.
awesome. I'm glad y'all do stuff like this. So it's going to be really good. But yeah, if you ever need anything else, you know how to get me. But have a good weekend.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
That's right. Hashtag JTeam.
JT.